People starting to pour in. There they come. Okay, attendees 20. Well, welcome everybody to the Rochester is Lifestyle. Oh, so I got that all wrong. This is Rochester Lifestyle Medicine Institute, and this is our Lifestyle is Medicine lecture series. I'm Dr. Ted Barnett, the high-tech doctor with low-tech solutions. I'm joined tonight with my partner in crime, Dr. Susan Friedman,
Hi.
professor of she's a professor of medicine at the University of Rochester. Say hello, Susan.
Hello.
It's great to see everybody. We're so excited to be here. And behind the blue ball is our engineer tonight, Robert Friedman. Boy, I'm having a hard time here. Robert Frankie and our director of communication. So we're so excited tonight to be able to welcome Eric Adams as our guest. And as many of you know, Eric Adams is the Brooklyn Borough president and a very strong advocate for whole food plant-based diet, because he has a very powerful story of his own of how he basically rescued himself with a whole food plant-based nutrition. And before we get into the program, I just want to tell you a little bit about our organization. Rochester Lifestyle Medicine started in 2015. We're actually two organizations now: Rochester Lifestyle Medicine Group, which is our medical practice. And if you're interested in being seen by one of our practitioners, we'd love to have you check our website. You can even see Dr. Friedman. She's got a busy schedule, but she might be able to squeeze you in. And also, Rochester Lifestyle Medicine Institute is our nonprofit, which is sponsoring this presentation tonight. And we have a wonderful program that we call our 15-day whole food plant-based jumpstart, which has now been published a couple of times, and we're submitted another publication about it. So we're very excited to be able to present that to the world. We've given it 30 times, and right now we're in the middle of our December jumpstart. We do it every month, and I think about 600 people have taken the program, and we get amazing results. You know, it's really remarkable what happens when people actually do what we tell them to or ask them to do. The question really is not whether it will work if you do it. The question is, how can we get you to do it? And how can we get you to stick with it? That's the real challenge. And we're just so excited to have so many people here witnessing what Eric Adams has to say. And before we run the video, we have a nice little video about Eric Adams. And Susan, did you want to say anything about lifestyle medicine before we start?
Just try it. You'll like it.
Well said. Well said. So, you know, there's a six pillars of lifestyle medicine that are put out there by the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, and we've added 3 pillars of our own. So we have nine pillars, which we're going to talk about a little bit later in a video that you're going to see. So, Bob, why don't we run that video of Eric Adams first, so people can get an idea of who our hero is tonight. So, take it away, Bob.
I am Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams, and I'm really joined by the true heroes and sheroes. I went to the doctor. He stated, Eric, your diabetes at a dangerous level. I got to put you on insulin right away. I had nerve damage in my hands and feet. I lost a lot of my feeling on my right thigh from nerve damage. And during that same time, I was losing sight in my left eye, and the right eye was going out also. And so little did I know that all of those symptoms were indicators that the diabetes had reached a very dangerous level. I don't think anything is more frightening than waking up and you could no longer see the alarm clock. I started out my public service career as a member of the New York City Police Department. I think I had probably the typical police / politician diet. And you know, I love to always end the rumor right away that says cops love donuts. That is not a rumor, it's a fact. I ate all types of donuts, from jelly to cream to glaze. I always exercised, but my diet was horrendous. On the move, as an elected official, as a police officer, I did steady midnight, so it was difficult to find things that were open late at night. So whatever I can get, I would grab and, just munch on, bad food habits. What was amazing is that not one doctor that I visited said anything about nutrition and food. The Forks Over Knives plan was just so helpful when I read the entire book, and I needed that plan. Cleaning out my cupboards, what to remove, looking at the list of things that you can eat, understanding the power of foods and what they do. And all of that information just made me so smart. In 3 weeks, my eyesight cleared up when I changed my diet. In 3 months, all the nerve damage was gone, the ulcer was gone, all of those symptoms that I had associated with my diabetes disappeared.
How old are you again?
57.
And you have the kidney function of a 30-year-old. Your sugars look good. They're normal. Your 3-month sugar, your A1C, has gone from 17 to 5.7. And that's now with no medication. Your inflammation is non-existent. And inflammation is a key factor also in diabetes and the risk for heart attack.
In the past, my entire meal was built around my life. Now my life is built around my meal. I chop up my kale, my carrots, my other items that I'm going to use, and I leave them in bags in the fridge. And so when it's time for me to make a meal, I just take a handful of each and put it all together. 90% of the things that I eat is because I cook. I'm in control of what I eat, and no one else is in control of that. It's so important for me to keep my energy levels up. Early today, I had a protest with private housing, that people were being left out. Then I had a meeting in public housing where some public residents was having problems. Then I have my staff meeting with my team and keep them abreast. I have a public event tonight with those who want to look at vegan/plant-based lifestyle. I have 2 dinners that I have to attend to actually entertain my Chinese guests that came from out of the country. So if my energy level is not up, I'm not able to deal with the issues that people are having and continue to build those international bridges that I look to do. We can save more lives with plant-based diet if people will only realize they are enslaved to fats, oil, sugar, and things that are killing their body.
And we're going to make sure that we allow our children to have healthy food. It's not a motto, it's a reality. We're going to raise healthy children and families in the borough of Brooklyn and in the city of New York.
When you have a chronic disease, it cripples your entire family. And if I could teach families how not to go through that and just experience life where their family members are not experiencing Alzheimer's, where grandparents can't identify their grandkids, and families are going through chemotherapy, and mothers are dealing with asthma. If I can do that, if I can change that, that is the end of the chapter. And I mean, I had a great life.
That is such a powerful story. Thank you so much for showing that. I'm so appreciative for the work that Forks Over Knives does. One of the greatest things that people can do is, who haven't seen it, is to watch the movie Forks Over Knives, which has inspired so many of our patients. I just want to remind people, if they have questions, they should please enter them into the little Q&A box at the bottom of their screen. We can use the chat, but you're more likely to get noticed if you put it in the Q&A. So please feel free to put questions in there, and I'll be sure to address those with Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams when he comes on the line, which will be in about 4 minutes now. So in the meantime, we've got another little video we'd like to show you that kind of tells you a bit about lifestyle medicine. So Bob, can you go ahead and play that? Is that queued up?
This coronavirus can attack anyone.
Young, old, anyone.
But it hits especially hard if you have an underlying health problem,
such as diabetes,
high blood pressure, heart or lung disease,
asthma,
or if you smoke.
According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, 94% of Americans who have died from the coronavirus had underlying health issues.
And that's the reality.
So what do?
We fight back.
There's no time to waste.
Here are 3 steps to get you started.
1.
If you smoke, quit. No blame, no shame.
It might be hard, but just do it now.
Throw the cigarettes away.
Full stop.
2.
Take your medications as prescribed.
If you've been neglecting them, get in touch with your healthcare provider and get back on track today.
3.
Pay attention to the foods you're putting into your body.
A low-fat, plant-based diet can bring down blood pressure, can improve, and sometimes even reverse diabetes.
I could not have imagined what my life would have been like if I did not reverse my diabetes before COVID-19. Now that I am eating a whole food plant-based diet filled with beans, grains, fruits, and veggies, I feel healthy and I'm able to have a healthy lifestyle.
People have tried all kinds of diets, but the evidence is in.
A plant-based lifestyle is the way to go.
Stay away from meat, dairy, and eggs.
Avoid greasy foods and junk food.
There are just a few tricks to master, but you can and should try it.
It can save your life.
Doing so saved mine. It could do the same for you.
It's easy.
Swap out the meat chili for a bean chili.
For your pasta, change out the Alfredo for some tomato sauce.
Let's trade in your beef taco for a bean burrito.
You get the idea.
And one more thing.
Please take your vitamin B12. It's good for your nerves. It's good for your blood.
It's readily available at pharmacies and health food stores.
And it's easy to remember.
Just look for vitamin B12.
A healthy diet won't solve coronavirus alone.
But coupled with hand washing, social distancing, and other preventative health practices like good sleep and exercise, it can greatly improve one's chances at recovery.
So, save your life.
Let's break up with cigarettes.
Let's get our medications on track.
And let's power up every breakfast,
lunch,
and dinner.
Let's do this.
We got this.
So again, thank you so much. And just as a reminder to everybody, this will be recorded and will be available for replay probably in a day or so. So it looks like we have Brooklyn President Adams on the Zoom call now. President Adams, hello.
How are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you. And this is my colleague, Dr. Susan Friedman. Susan, can you go live for a minute there and say hello?
Hello, nice to meet you.
Yeah, you know, you're just one of our heroes. We're so excited that you're able to join us tonight. It looks like you're in a vehicle.
So. Be moving around the city.
Okay, well, good.
You know, but it's all going good. You know.
Good, that's good.
Part of it. I just want to get the lights adjusted.
Sure.
And there you are.
Great, fantastic. So we just love your story. We just watched your video that's on Forks Over Knives, and so the audience got a little bit of a sense of your story. But maybe you could just give us some highlights of what your journey has been like.
An amazing journey. You know, I recall as a child, my mom stated that if you are fortunate to live long enough, you are going to be unfortunate to experience pain. So the question becomes, how do you turn pain into purpose? How do you look at those moments when you are in a dark place and make the determination that you're not buried, but you're planted? And we all have those moments. My story is probably no different than many other Americans and people across the globe. But it's a moment of how do you look at these moments and say, how do I cycle to another place? And so I recall watching her, and the story really starts with her. I watched her and saw her inject herself with insulin. And after being diabetic for 15 years, 7 years, she was taking insulin. And I looked at her face and she grimaced. And I said to myself, wow, she's been taking insulin for 7 years and never really got used to it. And I remember leaving to, that's the world of Zoom, don't worry about it. You know, I remember leaving that day, sitting in the driveway of her home and saying to myself, God, I wish I could do something for Mom. Mom is diabetic, she's on high medications, and I would love to in some way to do something for her. And, you know, you have to be careful what you ask for, because sometimes you get it. And that's what happened a few months later. I'm out of the country when I was having discomfort in my stomach. And I thought it was colon cancer because it was just a real knotty feeling. And I lost a friend to colon cancer, and the description seemed the same. And I promised myself once I got back to the country, I was going to go to the doctor, and I did that. And the doctor checked my stomach and my colon. And when I came out of sedation, he stated that, Eric, your colon is fine, you have an ulcer. But the vision loss that you are experiencing, because that same day I woke up, I couldn't even see the alarm clock. I lost my sight in my left eye. He said that vision loss and the tingling in your hands and feet that you are experiencing is all due to diabetes. You're going to lose your sight, and you're going to lose some fingers and toes because of the neuropathic nerve damage that you are experiencing. And you have to get on insulin right away, and you're going to be on medicine the rest of your life. This is your new norm. And it was just so impactful. All of a sudden, you walk into a doctor's office expecting one thing, and you walk out with three medications for diabetes, medication for my drops for my vision loss, medicine for my ulcer, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. I was a miniature Dwayne Reed by the time I walked out of the office. And it was only after coming in contact with, you know, just a feeling of, you know, I was at a dark place, and I went to 5 experts in the city, and they all told me the same thing. They said, Eric, it's hereditary. There's not much you can do about it. This is your new norm. And I went to the computer after the last doctor visit. I had a stack of pamphlets that said, and they were titled, Living with Diabetes. And instead of typing in living with diabetes, I typed in reversing diabetes. And all of this information came up, started reading through it, and I was able to identify an amazing doctor at the Cleveland Clinic called Dr. Esseltine. And I flew down to see him, and he told me, Eric, it's your food, change your food. Now, you know, I laugh about it today because I said to myself, I'm losing my sight, and this guy is telling me to stop eating chicken and steak. What's wrong with him? But I had nothing else to do. So I went back to my home. I started reading labels, and little did I know, in the back of my labels had the same food he talked about. Processed, high sugar, high salt, saturated fat, which is the enemy for diabetics. And I decided right then that I was going to get a large garbage bag, throw the food inside, and start anew. And I started a journey of a new terminology, whole food, plant-based diet, and never looked back. 3 weeks later, my vision returned. 3 months later, my diabetes went in remission. My nerve damage went away. My ulcer went away. My blood pressure normalized. My body just was turned a new body. You know, if you're looking for the fountain of youth, it is in your fridge. You just have to have the right items in there. It's about the food. And I've been encouraging people to really take control of their lives, to know you don't have to live through prescription, through medical visits. You can be more proactive to save you and your families.
Wow, what a great story. Now, how long ago was that?
4 years now.
4 years. And what was going through your mind when you found that such a seemingly simple solution was available to you that you had never heard about before, that all the doctors you went to didn't talk about?
It was a combination of things. Number one, there was a bit of anger, disappointment. When I started to think about my dad transition, at that time, a few months earlier from prostate cancer. And here it was, my mom was taking 9 medications and insulin for all those years. You know, as a footnote, mother joined me, and after 2 months of going whole food plant-based, she was cycled off her insulin and, you know, able to cut her medication in half as well. And so when you think about the countless number of parents and loved ones and family members who are on dialysis because medicine has just destroyed their kidneys, or, you know, diabetes and even vision loss. Diabetes is the #1 cause of blindness, #1 cause of non-trauma limb amputation. All of these people, we did not give them a choice. And it just sort of angered me. Then I started looking into what we have done to our doctors. Here, all of these medical professionals were hoping they could heal people, and they were never given the right tools. All they were given in medical school was types of prescriptions. Instead of dealing with underlying causes, they were only given ways to treat symptoms. And so I cycled out of that anger, and I turned that anger into energy. And now we're on a journey to save lives.
Yeah. Well, you're certainly a good example. You've turned yourself into quite a specimen, it looks like, as well. You work out a lot, huh?
Yes, I like to say I don't have a 6-pack, I have a case.
Excellent, excellent, that's great.
I'm just kind of curious, how long had your mother had diabetes when she was able to reverse it?
Mom was diabetic for 15 years, and she was on insulin for 7 years.
Okay.
So when you become, I know if people don't know, I know you're running for mayor of New York City. So when
Yes.
you become the mayor, how do you intend to implement healthy food reforms in your community?
Well, we started already, and we're going to expand. We were successful in getting our school system to remove processed meat from our schools. We were successful in getting several programs like Meatless Mondays. We are looking at all of our agencies. We can't tell a person what to serve on their grill in their backyards, but we could say that our city government should not feed the crises. And every agency in the city where we are feeding people, we're going to feed them healthy food. That includes our correctional facilities, our health and hospitals, one of the largest hospital centers in the country. We're going to ensure that child protected custody services, our schools, our senior centers, anywhere where taxpayers' dollars are going to feed people, we're going to make sure they are being fed healthy food, because we should not feed the crisis. It makes no sense that government is the feeder of people who are in need, and they're feeding food that are really, the foods are really contributing to the healthcare and chronic diseases that we are seeing.
Right. So what kind of pushback are you getting, if any?
It's interesting that when we started out this journey, people thought it was impossible, and they thought that we couldn't move the needle on this. But now people are watching their loved ones experience chronic diseases, and they are now embracing the concept, and it's part of the conversation. And really, it's about credible messengers. That is why the book that I just completed, Healthy at Last, we are going to take the proceeds from that book and donate it to the various faith-based institutions to start health ministries, because this information should go to places where people seek some form of supports, either spiritually or emotionally. And it is crucial that we have credible messengers that can change their lives and live that life-changing experience to share with other people who are in their environment and surroundings.
Mm-hmm. So you just used the term health ministry. Could you elaborate a little bit on that, please?
The goal is in our synagogues, our mosques, our churches, our churches, our temples, they all have different committees. Some call it ministries, some call it committees, some call it groups. We want to use funds to assist those groups that are focused on health. Every day, our clergy leaders, our different faith leaders go visit loved ones in hospitals. They pray for their wellness without realizing the answers to their prayers is right in the supermarket, is right on the plates, is right in their fridge, is right in the information that they give to their parishioners. And so our goal is to empower these faith-based institutions with information so they can set up miniature committees inside their faith-based institutions to start teaching about health.
Right, and has that already started?
Yes, it has. We have been meeting and partnering with different groups, the NAACP, which is the oldest civil rights organization in our country. They have been partnering with us as well. And so we're hoping just to continue to expand and grow this initiative.
So also before you came on, we ran the video that you had been involved with producing where multiple doctors were giving part of the speech and you were in there as well. And it had to do with the COVID-19 pandemic. And I'm just wondering now that it looks like the pandemic is not going away, what message you would have for people regarding diet and the pandemic?
And that's so important because when you look at 90% of the people who are hospitalized had pre-existing condition, over 90% of the people who died from COVID-19 had comorbidities and pre-existing conditions. Then when you trace it back, those pre-existing conditions came from our lifestyle. It's not in our genes that we are experiencing these chronic diseases. It's not your DNA, I like to say, it's your dinner. And many of the dinners that we are feeding people they are actually coming from government. And so our goal is, as we cycle back into a level where COVID-19 is becoming part of a new norm, we want to show people how to build their immune system by eating the right food so they can have the strength that they need and the great opportunity to fight off viruses and infections. It's about strengthening the immune system, eating the right food, not aggravating the chronic diseases. Because if you are on an American diet, the standard American diet, the acronym SAD, then it's clear that you're going to deal with some type of health issue. And we want to show people how they can be empowered not to be a victim of a bad habit or chronic diseases.
Yeah, I wish you had been one of my professors in medical school. I never heard this before. But you know, those of us who've been advocating for this for a long time, and I've been plant-based personally since 1991 when I read about the work of Dr. Dean Ornish, who's very similar to Dr. Esselstyn, and actually the 15-day jump start that we have been doing now for a couple of years is based on the Esselstyn program, because we think that's where people need to get started. But one of the things we hear is that we need to be culturally sensitive. And can you just address a little bit about what it means that when people say, well, that's not my kind of food, or this isn't what I expect to be eating, how would you respond to that?
Well, there are two approaches to that, and I have two responses. One, it is not government's job to feed people at the risk of being unhealthy to be culturally sensitive. That is not the role of taxpayers' dollars. That's number one. But number two, we should invest in making meals that people could identify with, that will respond to their cultural needs. You can have a taco without meat and using whole wheat flour instead of some of the processed white flour and using ground beef. I've learned how to use some of my grandparents' and mother's favorite recipes and create meals that are healthy, because food should look good, be good for you, but darn it, it should taste good. And anyone who believes that living a plant-based life means you walk around with a kale in your pocket all the time, that is not the truth. My meals are amazing. In fact, prior to going plant-based, I only had really 7 meals that I cycled for a period of time. Every morning was 2 eggs on a roll with eggs. In the evening time, we cycled through chicken and steak. There was no diversity. Now I have about 60 meals that I enjoy, different tastes, different spices. I introduce myself to new spices that I've never used before. My spike rack, for the most part, pre-plant-based, was just salt and pepper. Now I'm dealing with cumin and turmeric and so many other spices that I have enjoyed. And so we can be culturally sensitive by teaching people how to eat real culturally healthy foods and not feed the crisis.
Right. Well, you're making me hungry hearing about your spice rack. So can you talk a little bit about soul food?
That's part of the book that I produced in Healthy at Last. We really trace the origin of soul food. And I think nothing is more dangerous and nothing is more of a Shakespearean tragedy, I like to say, than when you use the food of those who enslave you and turn it into a delicacy within your culture. That is just so harmful. And many of the foods we call soul food is food that we were forced to eat when our ancestors were on the slave plantation. And now that we're off the plantation, we've held on to those bad habits, and our ancestors must be looking from their grave sites and saying what is wrong with them. We were forced to eat this food, fried food, fast food. We take healthy food and make it unhealthy by putting pork and other foods inside, chitlins and pig intestines, pig feet, chicken, and all these other foods that are really unnatural. And so the book really wanted to give people the real history of what's food that comes from the African continent and show people how to cycle off the bad food that they're eating. But it's not only African Americans. You look at all of our cultures, wherever people were colonized, they were also forced to eat bad food. Look at a place like Hawaii with all of the natural healthy food. One of the main diets the Hawaiian people eat is Spam. And these colonizer was able to incorporate it into the diet of the Hawaiians, and now they deal with very serious chronic diseases because of the unhealthy food they eat. With all of the healthy food there on the island, they consume unhealthy food all the time. Same thing with South America, Central America. They grow healthy food. It is shipped out of their country, and they are not allowed to consume it there. And it just sends a bad message. And so the soul food narrative of people of African ancestry is no different than the food narrative in so many other cultural groups that experience the colonizing of their lands.
Yeah, it sounds like you learned quite a bit when you were doing the research for this book.
Yes, so true.
Yeah, very interesting. So when you started, in the video that we saw about you from Forks Over Knives, it shows you at work with the food that you've prepared for yourself. It looks like some of your staff meetings. So what kind of challenges have you noticed with that, and have you affected the people that you work with?
Clearly, many people in the office have embraced looking at the food they're eating, because it's about a cycling out. It's not a diet, it's a lifestyle change. And if you can engage people in a conversation about what they're eating and start to identify what health issues they're going through with the food they're eating, that's a major step, because we've often ignored that. And then also show people how healthy food can taste good at the same time. And so we are excited about the fact that so many people have started to look at the food they're eating and embracing a more healthier diet that's not only in my office, but people I come in contact with all the time. They are really encouraged about enjoying a healthier lifestyle.
Sure. I think that's a great approach. It's one of the things that we're trying to do, is to change. Well, we want to change doctors by having them try it themselves and see how great it makes them feel. And then they'll encourage their patients to do the same. You know, nobody wants to come to a party when it looks like nobody's having fun, and it looks like you're having fun.
So true.
Yeah. That's great. Susan, Dr. Friedman, do you have any thoughts or questions? And not to put you under any pressure or anything.
One question I would ask is, what your interaction with the medical field in general, how have you spread this information to doctors and other medical people?
It's interesting because nothing is scary to an individual than when you shake the foundation of their understanding. And when you engage with doctors and tell them that there's a better way from the prescription, at first there's some pushback, and there's almost a level of how do you question all these years I spent in medical school. And then when I give them a copy of my book and other books that really shows them the science, there's a different approach. Some embrace the concept, others continue to fight it. They feel they have gone too far in their career to start to think differently. But we are happy with the relationship that we have at Downstate Hospital. We have been able to engage them in real talks and conversations around training their doctors. It's a teacher college, a medical school in Brooklyn, and start training their doctors on how to have a more proactive approach to healthcare. And we are also extremely happy with the partnership with Dr. McMacken at Bellevue Hospital, first of its kind in America, a lifestyle medicine clinic in a major hospital like this, where we have over 700 people were on the waiting list and over 200 people were going through the program. And the more and more we go through the program, we're learning different ways of seeing what government needs to do to support this concept. And so it's a continuation of imploring people to embrace this new way of thinking about healthcare, not just reactionary, but to be proactive. We want to save lives, not put people through the trauma of a chronic disease.
Really interesting. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Dr. McMacken. She's a good friend, and she and I are both on the board of the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, and she's just been a trailblazer. Plus, she's a pretty nice person.
Yes, she is.
Yeah, that is such a great, so interesting. So it really is about culture change, and someday I hope that people are going to say, "What are you talking about? We all do this anyway."
That's so true. We're gonna look back and say, how could we have been injecting ourselves with insulin? How could we have been, for those who are type 2 diabetic, how could we have put ourselves in hospitals when we go in for colon cancer or something, and then we eat the same food that caused the colon cancer? How did we not have a high fiber diet? How do we allow people to destroy their kidneys or to lose their sight? We're going to look back on this, and we're going to, just as we look at some of the ancient ways that they dealt with illnesses, we weren't always doing the things that we were doing, and we had to learn. And so now it's time to learn so that we can have proper health care and not just sick care.
Right, right.
When I was in medical school, they said I was taught that half of what we're teaching you is going to be wrong, but we don't know what half. And so bit by bit we learn.
I wish it had only been half.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's putting a positive spin on it. So, yeah. So, we've got a whole bunch of questions here, and a number of them are sort of specifically about health. But, since you're involved in policy, I'd like to ask you, relay this question, which is, somebody says, I'm a climate change educator and a plant-based vegan for many years. Is Mr. Adams putting any programs together connecting climate change with food choices and health?
That is so important, because whenever you hear many of the advocates talk about climate change, they ignore or don't want to engage in what our overconsumption of meat, chicken, and dairy is doing to our planet. Not only are our bad eating habits impacting our mothers, it's impacting Mother Earth. When you look at the Amazon and the burning of the Amazon, it's for chicken feed and cattle raising. So we need to connect the two, and that is what we're doing here in Brooklyn. We are engaging in a real conversation how climate change is actually being driven also by our overconsumption of meat and dairy. You can't leave them out of the equation in the conversation, and many people attempt to do so, and we refuse to make it happen. The Green New Deal that was pushed in Washington did not have a real conversation about the overconsumption of meat in our society.
Interesting, interesting. So, you know, given what we're facing with these various crises in our climate and our political situation, what suggestions do you have for people to be happy and optimistic?
That we're moving towards a place, I believe, I like to say all the time, that there's a universal shift in our environment. We're no longer allowing ourselves to be just driven by those ideas of others. I think we're in a place where we're going to discover not only how do we save our planet, but really how do we save ourselves and find our purpose, our true purpose. As I talk about in the book, it's not only the physical body, but it's the anatomy of our spirit. How do we find real peace? How do we find that inner peace inside through meditation, yoga, mindfulness? How do we have a balance in our lives? People don't see the connection as some of the new disciplines in psychiatry, psychiatry, nutritional psychiatry, because we're starting to see the connection and some of even the mental health disorders that's connected to the food that we are eating. And so I'm excited about where we are going as a civilization, and realize the way we have been feeding ourselves is uncivilized, and we should not continue to go down this road. Chronic diseases hijacks your life, hijacks your families. It turns you into who you are not. It deals with our productivity, our quality of life. And it's time to look at that knife and fork and state that either you're going to use it to feed yourself or to dig your grave. Either way, the decision is in the hands of everyone in their individual lifestyle.
Well put. And I'd really like to thank you for being so generous with your time tonight. It's really been a pleasure, and we've learned so much. So in the last 60 seconds that we have with you, do you have any final message for everybody?
To believe in yourself. The person you know you are and who you always wanted to be is there, and they're waiting. We have been in our own way 3 times a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's time to get out of your way and let your body heal. It wants to heal. And if you would give the opportunity to do so, it is an amazing gift that was given to us. And it's time to use our lives to protect that gift, respect that gift, nurture that gift, and you will find the quality of life that you're looking for.
Well, that was so inspirational. I know I'm inspired, and I'm sure Dr. Friedman is.
Yeah.
And yeah. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Adams. It was really great to see you. And
good to see you.
Yeah. And good luck with all your endeavors. And
thank you.
I hope you call him mayor next time.
Take care. Take care, Doctor.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Wow. So Dr. Friedman, what are your, amazing. What's your reaction, Dr. Friedman?
Yeah. Just to be in his presence is kind of an amazing thing.
Right. So we have so many questions here. You know, one of the things I just want to comment on, and his hemoglobin A1C was 17 when he first was diagnosed, which is incredible. He must have had blood sugars in the 500s.
Yeah.
No wonder he was feeling so terrible.
Yeah.
And then by the end, what was it? In a few months, it was down to 5.7. So we've certainly seen that same type of response for people who do this. Dr. Friedman, have you seen that?
Yeah. So short answer is yes. And you know, one of the things that I've been struck by the more that I do this is just how quickly people can experience changes when they make a substantial change in their diet. And you know, when I first started working with you, you had this philosophy of diving in completely and, you know, doing this 100%, whereas I tend to be more of an incrementalist. And I have come to appreciate your approach to this, because I think what we see is that when people make substantial changes, they really get substantial changes in their health. And like I said, it happens very quickly. I mean, you know, what we see in our 15-day Jumpstart program is kind of phenomenal. And you almost wouldn't believe it if you didn't see it month after month, in person after person. So that's one side of it. The other side of it, though, you know, I was interested in his mother's experience, because I think the wisdom is that the earlier in your course, the easier it is to make improvements in your blood sugars. But his mom had been diabetic for 15 years, and I think we see that as well, that there are people who have been diabetic for quite a long time, and they're still able to experience significant changes in their health. So it's, you know, it's never too early, definitely, and it's almost never too late. I think is the message there.
Yeah, it has been an amazing journey for us as well. To, you know, when we started doing the 15-day jump starts, it was kind of a leap of faith to say, wow, we keep hearing these great things about this diet. It seems to work for people we know. Let's see what happens when patients do it. And it has been kind of amazing. So here's a question that, actually it's the first question on here. It's, I really want to transition to a vegan diet, but need to lose weight. My diet mentality tells me that I will have too many carbs if I eat things like beans, parentheses, starchy, quinoa, etc. Any thoughts? Dr. Friedman, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So, you know, carbs, we hear carbs a lot in the press, but the things that we think of as carbs are things like donuts and cookies and so forth. And it's not the carbohydrates themselves, it's the company that they keep. So they keep company with a lot of processed foods, with a lot of fat and so forth. And those are really the culprits. I mean, we evolved eating mostly carbohydrates, and so that is really not a problem. And what we see when we put people, again, on a what we call an ad lib whole food plant-based diet, so they don't cut calories, they just eat until they're no longer hungry, and they lose weight. They lose weight without even trying. So it's not, you don't even have to put on your sort of diet hat or, you know, think about cutting back or anything like that. You just eat, as long as you're eating the right foods, and those foods are, you know, what we call the power plate, which is 4 different categories. So vegetables, fruits, as Dr. Veggie has right
That's the power plate right there.
So vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and legumes, so beans, peas, and lentils. So as long as you're eating a variety from those groups, you're going to do just fine.
Yeah, I echo exactly what Dr. Friedman says. We've seen this so many times in people who, especially who do the 15-day Jumpstart, because as Dr. Friedman said, we don't advocate that you count calories or that you control your portions. There's no portion control and there's no calorie counting. And we just want you to eat the right foods, which includes things that you would consider starchy, like white potatoes, sweet potatoes, squash, beans, quinoa, whole grains, all these things. And we tell people, and when you're hungry, have a snack. And so I can still remember somebody who was a vegan for many years who had trouble with her weight. She said, I didn't believe you, but I went through the program, and when I got hungry, like, you know, at night or whatever, I wanted a snack, I'd have an apple or a potato, and I still managed to lose 6 pounds in 2 weeks. And that's a very typical story. So I love that question. And Mary, it's like you left that question at 7:12. You'd be a great candidate for the Whole Food Plant-Based Jumpstart. Or if you want to try it on your own, you know, there's other programs out there you can certainly do it on your own. But it's nice to have the social support, which is what we provide. So let's see. what other questions are on here that we have time to answer? Does plant-based diet help with rheumatoid arthritis pain and fatigue? So that's a really interesting question because rheumatoid arthritis is one of the autoimmune diseases, one of the most common ones, along with lupus and psoriatic arthritis and a few others. And while it's not the same kind of a slam dunk that we see with the so-called metabolic diseases of diabetes, obesity, hypertension, heart disease, a lot of people with autoimmune diseases will respond dramatically and fairly quickly. So it's really worth a try because you may be one of those people who will respond dramatically. I cannot tell you how many people we've talked to who said their psoriatic arthritis cleared up or the rheumatoid arthritis got better, or they didn't even realize they had arthritis until they were done with the jump start and they said, gee, my joints all feel really good. I didn't even expect that. So maybe not strictly rheumatoid arthritis or one of the other inflammatory arthritis, but just generalized arthritis seems to respond. And as far as fatigue goes, well, you can see how much energy President Adams has. And, you know, I've only slept 20 minutes in the last 2 weeks, so I guess it's working for me. Yeah, Dr. Friedman, any comments on that?
Yeah, well, just again, sort of not to keep harping on the Jumpstart program, but one of the things that we thought would be interesting to look at in terms of patient experience is some of the sort of quality of life measures. And so we ask people when they start the program about their pain level and their energy level. And what we find is that in 15 days, again, going whole food plant-based, that pain decreases and that energy increases. People tend to sleep better. They, if they have reflux, their reflux tends to get better, and mood tends to get better. So a lot of things that really contribute to quality of life improve quite quickly. The other thing that I just sort of want to mention is, you know, there are common pathways to our most common chronic diseases, and really four that are sort of ever present. One is low-level inflammation. And that is because the standard American diet is very pro-inflammatory. And when you switch from a standard American diet to a whole food plant-based diet, you know, it becomes a very anti-inflammatory diet. And so I think that's at least a mechanism that we think is happening there in terms of why people may get, you know, feel better so quickly and have decreases in their pain.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. Here's a question that I love. This is from another Susan. Will a plant-based diet alone reverse health issues, or is it imperative that some type of exercise program go hand in hand with the food program? If so, please share how much exercise is needed. What does your exercise program include? Parentheses, problem, I hate exercise. Well, I'd be interested to know if you hate exercise or you hate going outside and just going for a walk. Because honestly, if that's really all you need to do. People just need to get up and move a little bit. They don't need to go to the gym. They don't need to be runners. I happen to be a runner. I'm addicted to it. And maybe it's a bad habit. I don't know. I can't seem to break it. But I really think, I mean, if you've taken one of my courses, you'll memorize this expression, which is eat more fruits and vegetables and go outside and run around. Well, I could maybe tone that down a little bit and go outside and walk around. Just start getting outdoors. I mean, so lifestyle medicine is not just about nutrition. It tends to be very important to lifestyle medicine because it's one of the bigger problems that we deal with. And there's also sort of more questions about it. People have more doubts about it. Everybody kind of agrees we need to get a little more exercise and sleep more and stress less. But the food part is always seems to be the biggest problem. But as far as just getting exercise, you know, let's deal with this nature deficit disorder. Let's just get outside. And if the weather's crummy, dress for it. Go outside even if it's raining or snowing. Just wear the right clothes. It can be so much fun, and your stress and your problems will just sort of melt away. I'm just such a big fan of getting outdoors. I try to do it several times a day. And I also have this rule on, which is get out of breath every day. So even if you are someone who likes to exercise, but you happen to be at work and you can't, just run up and down the stairs once. Just feel your heart rate go up a little bit, get out of breath a little bit. It becomes very self-reinforcing because you will begin to feel better in so many ways. As Dr. Friedman was saying, we do assess, people's, just sort of general level of mood and happiness. And, we see that just goes up when people start to pay attention to the pillars of lifestyle medicine.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Sorry, just you've probably heard the saying that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. I think, oftentimes the first step is just the most difficult. And if you can kind of trick yourself, as Dr. Barnett was saying, just go outside. You don't have to stay out for very long, just go outside, preferably in the middle of the day when you can get some sunshine, when there is sunshine. That's very helpful. Breathe some fresh air and move around. Get out of your chair from time to time. But once you start down that path, it's much more easy. It's much easier to keep going than. So just start.
Exactly. Here's a question: does RLMI have any programs for doctors? What a great question. So we're very excited. We have produced a CME, that stands for Continuing Medical Education, a CME program that is for physicians and other healthcare practitioners. And it's really fun because unlike so many CME programs that doctors and other clinicians take, this one also involves interacting live with patients. So one of the bad things that happened when we had this pandemic is we couldn't see patients in our office anymore. And that was back in March, and we were bringing 24 people at a time into this enclosed space. So the Jumpstart didn't seem to fit very well with that way of doing things. So we pivoted and we came up with this Zoom-based program, and now we've had patients from 30 states, a couple of Canadian provinces, and now we have somebody signed up from who's from England. And basically the whole English-speaking world is our oyster now, and when we start to translate, we'll maybe expand that a little bit. People who want to learn how to talk to patients about this type of a program, this type of diet, can actually engage in one of these Zoom-based programs where you get to look at the gallery of faces, and I just love seeing those happy faces every time we do it. We do it once a month, usually with about 30 people. And so for clinicians who want to get some CME credit, it's at least 20 CMEs. If you take the course, there's about 10 CMEs that come from participating in the 2-week Jumpstart, and we expect you to do everything that the patients do. And then there's another 10 or 12 credits that come with the online materials that are available and has been accredited through the University of Rochester Medical Center. I can't tell exactly how many CMEs because we have to count them up. We have to see how long it takes people to get through it, but it's going to be at least 20 CMEs for the whole program. It's a really fun program. Dr. Friedman is one of the lecturers. I'm one of the lecturers. Carolyn Trapp, who's the diabetes head of diabetes education for the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, has a lecture on deprescribing. So a lot of very valuable material. We're very excited about that. So if you know a doctor who might be interested, tell them to take a look at our website. If they poke around a little bit, they'll find the link to the course, and we'd love it if they signed up. It's really a lot of fun. So looks like we've run out of time. It's 8 o'clock. Dr. Friedman, you have any final messages?
No, just thank you for being here. It's, get the word out.
Yeah, thank you all for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you either virtually or we hope in person one of these days. So thank you very much. And good night.